I never imagined I'd start my day watching an SUV get eaten alive by my front yard. No, really, one minute I'm just standing there, coffee in hand, and the next I'm watching Karen's over-polished tank of a vehicle sink halfway into my grass like a swamp monster had finally found its prey. You'd think the universe was playing a prank, but nope, that was just a regular Tuesday in my neighborhood. The thing is, Karen had no clue the whole scene was my doing. I'd built that muddy trap just for her. And the best part, every square inch of it was 100% above board. Legal clean, the sort of thing you could brag about in court if it ever came to that. Life around here wasn't always like this, though. When I moved in 3 years back, I was picturing peaceful suburbia, work-from-home bliss, quiet evenings, maybe a perfect patch of lawn that would make old men tip their hats as they passed by. You ever get attached to something simple like a lawn? That was me. I became that person. Became that. Morning watering, careful trimming, full-on war against dandelions. The whole routine. My grass was a soft, thick carpet, the kind you want to walk on barefoot just to feel alive. Then Karen moved in. If you've ever met someone whose presence is louder than a car alarm at midnight, you know the type. She'd claim she wasn't like those other Karens, which of course meant she was 10 times worse. She made her grand entrance by parking that mammoth SUV halfway across my lawn like the grass was just extra parking space for her. First it was just a quick stop, then it was emergency school run. Before I knew it, the entire passenger side of her vehicle was embedded in my yard every single week. At first I tried to be polite. Put up a little sign, nothing aggressive, just a nice "please don't park on the grass." She laughed at it. Knocked it over the second time, told me to stop whining about a patch of grass like I was the unreasonable one. I went to the HOA hoping for a little help, maybe just some basic common sense. Turns out Karen was already on the board. Figures, right? The kind of twist that would make you laugh if you weren't living it. So if I wanted peace, I'd have to get creative. My friends said let it go. You'll just stress yourself out, they said. But I don't let things go, not when someone's stomping on something I've poured my heart into. This wasn't just grass anymore. It was principle. It was weirdly about dignity. One rainy Wednesday, I'm making breakfast and I hear her engine roaring outside. She barrels up the curb like always, except this time the ground is so soft it's almost mush. Her tires start spinning, mud spraying everywhere. She jumps out, high heels, sinking in, screaming at the lawn as if I'd sent it to attack her personally. She blamed me, the weather, probably even the city. I just watched, didn't say a word. And standing there, something clicked. If she wanted to treat my lawn like a parking lot, maybe it was time she paid the parking fee. So I started digging through city rules, HOA bylaws, the whole works. Turns out as long as it's not a safety hazard, I could modify my yard as I pleased. That's where I discovered the magic of the bioswale. Fancy word for a shallow ditch filled with plants that soaks up rainwater, good for the environment, and if you're clever, the perfect setup for a hidden mud trap. I got to work. Bought liners, soil mixes, turf that could handle staying wet without looking it, even tossed in a few frog statues and some solar pond lights to sell the disguise. Karen kept parking. The rut got deeper, but what she didn't know was that each night I was transforming the earth beneath her future disaster. I installed a drainage system that funneled rainwater right where I wanted it. Set up a layer of clay that stayed permanently wet, covered by engineered soil that looked solid but shifted under pressure. On top, perfect green grass. From the street, it looked better than ever, a tempting welcome mat for the next fool to drive over it. And then came the rain. After 2 days, she came back, same old routine, didn't even hesitate. Tires hit the soft spot, and like clockwork, the SUV just dropped. She tried to back out. Nope. Tried to gun it forward. Double nope. When I walked out with my coffee, it was like watching a slow-motion nature documentary, except the prey was a car, and the predator was my lawn. She shrieked, she cursed, she even tried to blame the HOA. When the tow truck showed up and got stuck behind her, I knew I'd built a masterpiece. It was beautiful. Word spread faster than a new Starbucks opening. The group chat blew up. Suddenly my yard wasn't just grass, it was legend. Karen, though, wasn't the type to just lick her wounds. No, she'd be back. So I doubled down. I started combing through HOA rules line by line. That's when I struck gold, a sustainability incentive. Homeowners could re-landscape for water conservation, no questions asked, as long as there were no permanent structures. With a few brochures, a fake initiative flyer, and lots of green buzzwords, I submitted my plan. The HOA president stamped it approved without even reading page 2. You should have seen me shopping for supplies, soil mesh, fake wildflowers, the works. Even hired a landscaper to legitimize the whole project. Though I did the tricky bits myself at night, repositioning traps, testing drainage. I didn't just want to sink a car, I wanted the earth itself to rebel against her arrogance. A few days later, Karen tried to return to normal parking with one tire just on the edge of the lawn, looking at me like she wanted a fight. I just waved and told her about my city-approved ecosystem. She was suspicious but didn't push yet. Then came the mind games. I started putting up little decorative signs. Wetland in progress, native plant area, my personal favorite sod testing zone. She rolled her eyes. But behind all that, I was fine-tuning the perfect trap. One that was legal, elegant, and above all, humiliating. Soon Karen started pushing back, forming a beautification committee, printing out garden guidelines, calling out ugly yards in the group chat. We both knew who she was talking about. One day she even handed me a printout of acceptable landscaping styles as if it was the word of the HOA gods. I couldn't help myself. I asked if her SUV had accepted Jesus after its baptism in my yard. She didn't laugh, but I did. She started circling my yard, snapping pictures, muttering into her phone, clipboard in hand, trying to catch me breaking some rule. But I documented everything, every form, every email, every soil test. If she wanted a war of paperwork, she was going to drown in it. Some nights I'd see her peeking from behind her curtains, watching me work. At that point, the whole thing became performance art. Every time I raked, watered, planted, part of a one-man show starring her as my captive audience. She made one last late-night attempt, tossing gravel across my curb to improve my lawn edge. Didn't know I had a trail cam set up. The next morning, I taped the footage to my mailbox with a smiley sticker. When she stormed over, I offered to send the footage to the HOA just to be clear about boundaries. That was the last time she tried anything direct. By now, the swamp trap was a thing of beauty. Lush grass, hidden mud, solar lights, nature's own booby trap. All legal, all approved. And the ground beneath Karen's pride was softer than ever. I didn't have to wait long. Monday morning, just as the neighborhood was waking up, Karen's SUV rolled up cocky as ever. She drove right onto her usual spot. I could see it a tiny bounce, a little shift. Then the whole front end dipped. At first, she didn't notice. But when she tried to open the door, she realized something was wrong. Wheels sunk deep, mud everywhere. She panicked, hit reverse, only to make it worse. I set my coffee down, watching her try to climb out, shoes swallowed by mud, screaming for a tow truck, and if I had to guess, a lawyer too. Neighbors peeked out, some even came outside. When the tow truck arrived, the driver tried to be clever but ended up getting stuck too. Now we had 2 trapped vehicles. The whole block came out to watch. I heard someone mutter about calling in a drone. When the second massive tow truck arrived, it managed to pull them both out but left the yard looking like a cratered battlefield. Karen, splattered and furious, stormed over, threatened to sue me for everything she could think of. I just smiled, pointed to the city-approved sign, and gently explained she'd parked in a certified wetland. She screamed about sabotage. I calmly showed her camera footage of her own antics, knocking down signs, trespassing. For the first time, she had no comeback. She stormed off, trailing mud. That afternoon, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Karen tried to claim I'd created a hazard. But with every document, every time-stamped email, drone footage, and all, the board had no choice but to side with me. Even the president couldn't argue. Karen's power in the group crumbled. For the first time, I could feel her losing. And the weirdest thing was, I felt relief. Not just victory, but a real deep sense that justice sometimes works slowly, and only if you're willing to play the long game. After the double tow truck disaster, Karen disappeared. Her SUV stayed hidden, her voice gone from the chat, her windows always shut. For a minute, it almost felt like peace. But if you've ever met a Karen, you know that's just the calm before the storm. Sure enough, a few days later, I spot a little surveillance camera on a nearby lamppost pointed right at my yard. HOA inspection sticker and all. She was building a case waiting for me to slip up. I wasn't worried. I installed my own hidden in a birdhouse watching everything. She filed complaints about noise lights, wildlife. She even accused my frogs of attracting mosquitoes. The city inspector, amused, pointed out that her own bird bath was the real breeding ground. I kept showing up to meetings, always prepared, always polite, and watched her sink further into her own mess. One night my trail cam caught her sneaking out, pouring gravel and cement into my swale to sabotage the drainage. That was it. I filed a police report, handed over the footage to the city and the HOA. The city fined her for illegally tampering with someone else's project. Karen tried to flip it back on me with a live stream confrontation. I just held up the citation number and the police report. It was glorious. The comments online tore her to shreds. I almost felt bad, almost. She backed off after that, but you could still feel her watching, waiting for me to mess up. Instead, I leaned in. Put up a new sign, "Beware of bog beast." Added a gnome with a shovel. Played frog noises at night. Karen finally stopped driving by. At the next HOA meeting, another neighbor, not me, I swear, introduced a motion banning lawn parking altogether. The whole neighborhood voted yes, except Karen, who'd been kicked off the board for her conflict of interest. Now she was just a regular homeowner, powerless. As the motion passed, she sat silent, arms crossed, ignored by everyone. After all that chaos, my yard looked better than ever. The bioswale thrived. Birds and frogs visited every day. A local group even asked to feature it in their community walk. The story went viral. I'd turned Karen's bullying into neighborhood folklore. But the final act was still to come. I printed flyers, bright green cartoon frogs lounging in deck chairs, and invited the whole block to the first annual swamp party. Come see where Karen's SUV learned to swim. I didn't hand them out directly, just left them everywhere. Mailboxes, windshields, the HOA board. On party day, neighbors trickled in with chairs and drinks. Someone brought karaoke. Another set up a bar. Kids played near the swamp. I set up tiki torches, spotlights, a rented canoe with a plaque that read, "In memory of Karen's front bumper." It felt like a block party. Stories about Karens everywhere, laughter rolling easy across the lawn. And of course, Karen showed up. Couldn't help herself. She circled the crowd, sunglasses on, lips curled. I greeted her wearing a shirt that said "Swamp it like it's hot." She muttered about being made a mockery of. I just raised my eyebrows. Did I, or did you? She turned and left, nearly tripping over a shallow pit to a chorus of laughter. A few days later, I watched as a for sale sign appeared in her yard. Karen argued with the realtor, signed the paperwork with shaking hands, and vanished from my life just like that. No dramatic goodbyes, no more fights, just silence and a muddy memory. The neighborhood learned something. It wasn't about the grass, the mud, or the HOA. It was about standing your ground but finding humor in the madness, turning someone's attempts to crush you into something worth celebrating. And as I stood there watching my thriving yard, a smile tugged at my lips. Karen brought chaos, but left only silence. And my swamp, well, it's still there, waiting patient for the next entitled tire to dare cross the line. But let me ask you this, if someone tramples on your boundaries, where do you draw your line? When does a fight become worth it? Have you ever turned someone's arrogance into a joke they'll never forget? Tell me what you think. Or better yet, share your own swamp story. Because let's be honest, every neighborhood has at least one Karen, right?